I'm Alex. This is the Geek Out for Intro to Data Analysis using R. If that's not what you're here for, you can hang out with us anyways. But anyways, does everyone have a window that looks like this? Do you have RStudio open? Does it look like this vaguely? Let me know if it doesn't. Everyone good? Cool. I'm going to take that as a yes. So this is your workspace in RStudio. RStudio is what's called an integrated development environment. I think that's what it stands for. It's just a place where you can code in R, manage all your files, see all the packages that you have loaded, see all the variables that you have. So this is the console right in here. It's where you can code and stuff, but it's not where you should code because none of this stuff in the console is saved automatically. The environment is where you'll see all of the tables and variables and stuff that you have loaded, that you've created. And then this down here is where you can see the files that are in your directory that you're working in. It's where you'll see graphs that you make, the packages that you have loaded, anything that you need help on, you can go into here. So like those are the basics of RStudio right there. So to start off with, I want everyone to go to File, and then click on New Project. And then New Directory, New Project, and call it like Geek Out 2018 or something. And then, yeah, that'll be fine, I think. Actually, go to Browse and then put it in the Documents folder, just so that that's where, yeah. And then you press Create Project. Okay. So once you've done that, you should see the same window except with /geekout 2018 up in the top left. Everyone see that? Okay. So what a project does is it contains everything that you do in R. All the code that you write, all the scripts that you create, all of the files that you make are going to be contained within a folder called Geek Out 2018. And if you take in a class with Phil, he'll talk about like set working directory whenever you open that. This is a way easier way to deal with that because you don't actually have to manually set your working directory. Everything you do related to a certain project will be contained within this folder. So it's just way easier. Okay, so like I said, nothing in this that you do in this is the console, nothing you do in this is saved automatically. So I highly recommend never using the console except for like one-off things that you need to test. What you should do is go File, New File, R script. And then save it as test script or something. So now you can see that file has been saved to your folder over here. This is the project file, this is the script file. You can also go File, Save As to save it. Does everyone see that? Anyone having problems? Cool. Okay, so this is where all the magic happens, all the code is created, and this is what you'll be able to save as an actual script that you'll then be able to open up later and see what you were doing. So when I'm using R, I do all of my work in a script. So and I rarely delete things, so it's a way for me to go back and see what I was doing, what I was thinking, what I was trying out, that sort of thing. If you do it out here, then it's lost forever. You never see it again. So you definitely want to do it in a script. Okay, to start, we're going to install a couple packages. And what packages are they're just a collection of user-created content, scripts, programs, etc. to modify some sort of behavior in R. In base R. Base R is great, but it's kind of old. It's pretty clunky. So we use a bunch of different packages to make that easier, to make our work easier for ourselves. So the first one we're going to install is called Tidyverse, and Tidyverse is actually a collection of like 1 million different packages that all do really fun things. So I want all of you to write install.packages, and then you'll get parentheses, and then in quotes, tidyverse, like that. And then highlight it and click the run button up here.
What was the keyboard shortcut for that?
That is Command Enter.
Control Enter.
Or Control Enter on PC. Yeah, so a shortcut for running things is if you click on a line, Command or Control Enter, depending on which operating system you're on, will run the line that your cursor is on. This will probably take a while. Actually, don't know. Oh, it might. If you're on the school computers, it might pop up a dialog box. I think you can click no, and it'll be fine. Yeah, and it'll install a bunch of stuff. Is everyone seeing something like this? This installation, yeah, this fun junk. Is anyone having issues so far? Yeah.
Why did not? You probably already had it.
You probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're fine. It's done. Okay. Oh, so click on this dialog box. Yeah, I'll just press no. There you go. Okay, if that's finished up for you, then we're going to install another package called Gapminder, spelled Gapminder, and then run that line.
You have to wait for it to finish it. For time.
Yeah. I mean, you can run it and it'll just run after it finishes, but yeah. So just run this line, install up packages, in parentheses, quote Gapminder, end quote. So what Gapminder is it's just a database or a data set of like country level, like population, GDP, life expectancy data. It's just a test data set for us to play around with. Okay. Is any problems so far? Does everyone see the arrow back in the console down here? Cool. Okay, going back into the script. We've installed the packages, now we need to load them. To load your packages so you can use them, do library tidyverse and library Gapminder, and make sure that you don't write these in quotes. Yeah, sorry. I think it'd be easier to see if it was black background with white text.
Oh, that would be nice. I'm
Okay.
sure there's a way to do that.
There is. There's some awesome themes. I forgot how to do it though. I don't know how to do anything in Windows. Whatever. Okay, has everyone run these two lines? The library tidyverse, library Gapminder? Do you have them in quotes?
No, it's
They should not be in quotes. Okay. I'll come.
Sorry.
So it's library, and then in parentheses, universe. Library in parentheses, that line. So. Yep. And then close parentheses. Yep. And same thing. That line. See if I can. Whoops. Okay. Everyone good? Cool. All right. Let's get the Gapminder into this environment so that we can actually play around with it and use it. So. Okay, so this is what I want you to write. GM_DF, and then this arrow, back arrow, Gapminder.
Do you have a space after the DF?
So okay, so what this is doing is GMDF is a variable name that I came up with myself, and then this arrow is assigning what's on the right to what's on the left. So this is a variable. This is something. We're going to assign this something Gapminder to the GMDF. And it doesn't, the spaces is a convention, it doesn't affect anything. So I have a space, I use a space on either side of the arrow to make it more readable. Let's see if I can zoom in a little.
And then if you wanted to rename GMDF, you would put,
There we
like
go.
for example, GMDF with the arrow, and then it's something in quotes, if you wanted to rename it.
So if I were to do that, all this is doing is assigning the string, the actual word Gapminder to GMDF. It's not actually bringing in any data.
Yeah, so it's just renaming it.
It's not renaming it because the variable is still called GMDF, but the variable GMDF has the value of string Gapminder.
Okay. So you would need to you would put to rename it DF_GM arrow Gapminder like you did in the beginning again if you were to rename it.
Yeah, there are other ways to do it. I'll get into that later.
Yeah.
Okay, so does everyone have this? Has everyone run this? It should work. Nope, doesn't work. Hold on. Oh, I may not have loaded mine actually. Yeah, there we are. Okay. Okay, so now you should see the GMDF variable over here on the right in your environment. Does everyone see that? Cool. That means that it's all loaded in and all the data is good to go. We can start playing with it. Okay, so there are several ways to see what you're dealing with when it comes to data. So this is a what's called a data frame in R. Essentially, all it is it's a spreadsheet, but they call it data frame. That's why I said DF. That DF stands for data frame. So you can click on it in your environment if you want, and it'll bring up the actual spreadsheet in a different window. This is not a fantastic way to see what your data actually is, though, because there's just a ton of it. So you can do things like run just this to see it in the console. You'll see this. Or you can do glimpse GMDF and run that, and you'll see like basically a summary of the different variables that you have, right, just in a more readable form. So these are the 6 columns that you have: country, continent, year, life expectancy, population, and GDP per capita. Another way to summarize the data frame that you're doing with is summary. This one's fun because it actually brings up several like measures for the different variables that you have. So you can see like it'll count the number of instances of each country name, each continent. It'll give you like basic numerical measures of like the numerical columns that you have. So for life expectancy, you can see the minimum that a country has, the max, the mean life expectancy for all of the rows in the data frame, etc. This is really handy when you're trying to get a hang of what you're working with. This is the basics of exploratory data analysis, if you've ever heard that. Just looking into it, literally exploring the data. If you want to just see the first 5 rows, you can do head GMDF. Which will give you just the first, well, 6 rows. So, yeah, it's a really nice way to see things at a glance before you actually start digging into transforming and playing with it. Okay, has anyone in here done anything with SQL? Anyone have any experience with that? Okay. What I'm going to show next is actually based on SQL. Let's zoom in a little more. Okay. Does everyone see this line that I wrote? GMDF, and then this thing, %, arrow to the right, %, and then select. Everyone see that? Okay, so what this is doing is it's taking the data frame. This weird symbol thing is called a pipe, and what it does is it's essentially, you can read it as then. So it takes the data frame, then it does something to it. Does that make sense? It's a way to chain together transformations of data that makes it way more readable than doing it one at a time. So this select thing, select is a function that is based on SQL, but what it does is it literally selects the columns that you specify. So when I say select 1:3, what that's doing is it's going to select columns 1 through 3. If I wanted to select just 1, I'd do that. If I wanted to select 1 and 8, I would do that. Or 1 and, there's not 8 columns, there's 6 columns, 1 and 6, I'd do that. So you can run this and see what comes of it. You can see that it just keeps the first 3 columns. Also, when you run something like this, when you run a line like this with just the pipes and not with an arrow to the left, you aren't changing anything. You're just making it display in the console. If I wanted to actually modify GMDF to only have 3 columns, I would do this, which is put an arrow pointing to the left at GMDF. So what this does is it takes GMDF, it selects the first 3 columns like this, and then it assigns it to GMDF, that variable. So it overwrites what you had there before. I'm not going to run that because we want all 6 columns, but that's how you would do it. If you want to see how it works, you can modify this variable name, make it GMDF2, and you can run that and see. And you can see that you have a new data frame over here with 3 variables instead of 6. Alright, does everything make sense so far? Anyone have any questions?
What was the syntax for just selecting 1 column?
Yeah, that's that is this.
Okay, just
Yeah,
that.
yeah. It's just
But I just wanted.
it's just the column number. Okay, so if you want to get rid of columns, or if you want to deselect columns, instead of selecting a range, if you want to just say, I want all columns except this one, you can use negatives. So negatives will deselect that specific column and leave you with the other 5. So this one will say, I want to keep all the columns except the first one. And so you can see it got rid of the country column. Everyone good? Understand this so far? Let me know if you don't. I'm happy to go into more depth on things if you need to.
So that's deselecting, not deleting.
It is dropping the call. It's technically a deletion, but it's deselecting it.
But
Like
they are still there, like if you wanna get it back.
yeah, like since I didn't assign this to anything,
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
it hasn't overwritten anything. But if I were to assign it, then it would be gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's only for visualization. Like, I don't wanna see the first one, so just like.
Unless you assign it, so
Right.
if we were working with them and we reassigned things.
Yeah.
We have a new data set,
Yeah.
called specific columns.
This deselection thing is good if you have like say 75 columns and you know there are a couple that you don't care about,
Mhm.
and just get rid of those. But we'll do this for now. Okay. Okay, so oftentimes you'll find a case when you have a big data set like this that you only want to look at a certain subset of the data based on some condition. Say that we want to see all of this data after the year 1991. So for that, what we need to do is called filtering. So we're going to do the same thing, gmdf pipe, and then we're going to write filter year, which is the column name, greater than 1991. And then if you run that, you can see that it filtered all of the data so that it only keeps the data after 1991. I use filter all the time. It's really nice for things. This condition that you feed into filter is what's called a conditional. It takes a true or false statement. So, is year greater than 1991? If so, then keep it. You could also do, is year equal to 1991? And for that, you need to use 2 equal signs. 2 equal signs means is equivalent to in the conditional sense. 1 equal sign means a sign, like you're assigning something on the right to the thing on the left. So 2 equal signs for a condition, 1 for assignment. Yeah.
Okay, so filter year with the greater than 1991. Is that including 1991? Or would it be like a greater
No,
than equal sign to include 1991?
Greater than or equals is just
It's
this.
just that.
Yeah. You can also filter on things like the country name that you want to look at. Do you want to look at just Afghanistan, just the data from Afghanistan? Then you can do this, not greater than or equal to Afghanistan, but equal to Afghanistan will just match. I actually don't know why that's not showing up. Did I spell wrong?
Oh, because year.
It's
Year.
year, no?
Oh yeah, it would have to be country. Thank you. Country equal to Afghanistan. So now it's just this. What's fun about this is then you can quickly see those same measures that we found, like mean, median, max, all those. You can do this too if you set up a new data frame called, I don't know, Afghan data, and then assign it to that.
So you can assign with one equal sign, but not for data frame.
It actually does work, but
Okay.
it's not good convention to do. So now that you have this new data frame called Afghan data, then you can do the same thing, summary, Afghan data, and now you can see the data for those measures for just the data from Afghanistan. Any questions about this? Going through so far?
It's like, oh no, I'm taking notes because I
Alright.
don't want to reload the whole R thing on
Yeah.
this computer.
By the way, if you want to take notes in your R script, you can write a comment by doing the hash sign and then writing anything, and anything on that line won't be run. It's just a comment.
It's true.
Yeah, they are.
There are usually a lot.
I know. I think it's because we switched it to Thursday.
Yeah, but
And-
people will show up tomorrow and they're gonna be like,
Oh yeah. They'll get it. They'll get the hang of it.
yeah. No, this makes more sense to me.
Yeah. Okay.
No, it's gonna be on Thursdays this year.
I wish the people on that side, you guys could see it better. This room is not set up great.
Can you scroll up just a little bit? I
Yeah.
want to make sure she did it. Oh, sorry, on the console. I want to
yeah.
make sure her results are. She should be. Okay. Perfect. We're
Should be good.
Can I ask you for something?
Yeah.
I'm getting like 0.
Okay. I have your. Yes.
Hey, you should have to
Oh, capitalize it, yes.
Gee. Yeah, I can spell.
Oh, yeah, you didn't read those before. Say, on line 17, in front of
Thank you.
everything
Yeah.
connected, at the very front. Yeah. Type,
What were you using this summer? Were you using R, SQL?
There was all Oracle SQL, which is the worst type of SQL. And then we were using Splunk, which is this. It's like a more customizable version of Tableau for like machine data, which is like low level log data.
Oh. Okay.
Did you hear what I said about the comments? I don't know, in case you were working on something else, but.
I don't think I heard.
Okay, it's so if you use the hash sign, like hashtag, and then on a new line, everything that you write after that new line is called a comment and isn't run in the code. So you can leave yourself notes. Yeah.
Hey Alex.
Yeah.
Whenever it says, like whenever you run a summary and then it says with 558 more rows, like how do you
See those rows.
Yeah.
See those? So you can put. Here, I'll actually show that. What were you running?
There's just with all the ones that we've been running, there's been little tags underneath a couple of them that says there's with 558 more rows.
Like
Oh,
the
yeah.
refiltered 1991, for
Yeah.
example.
Yes.
Okay, so you can do that by wrapping it in like view, open parentheses, close parentheses, like that.
Okay.
Whatever it is, if it's and what this will do is it'll open it in a new pane, so you can see
And it'll show just.
it'll show just the filter data.
Uh,
So that's capital V. View.
capital.
Yeah.
Sorry. And then the data frame name.
All right. So the summary is one way to show like mean and median, but if you want to just see one of those measures for a specific column, what you can do is write mean, and then for that, like this, mean GMDF $ life expectancy, or life X. So that $, what that does is it selects a specific column in the data frame. So it's literally the full data frame, $, the column that you want. And if you run that, then you'll see the mean of the year of the life expectancy column in the console. And if you want to assign that to a variable, then you can do that. Just add the variable name that you want, the arrow, and then that same thing that we just ran. And you can see that variable now over in the environment that you made. Anything that's over here you can access again. That's why I keep pointing it out. This is all stuff that exists outside your script that you can use elsewhere. Like in a different script, anything in this project, you'll be able to access this. You can also do things like, median. Run it, it'll do the same thing. There are a bunch of those operations that you can do on it. But if you want to do something like, let's say, you want to see the averages per continent, then what you have to do is group by, which will essentially tell R to divvy up the data based on a group that you specify. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but you'll see it in practice. So that's this group by, group _by, and then the column that you want to group by. In this case, I'll do continent because they're it's 7 values, 6 values. And then one more pipe, and then summarize mean GDP per cap. So what this will do is it'll show you the mean of the GDP per capita for the countries within each group, which in this case are the continents. You need summarize in this case because summarize is what allows you to do a mean over a group rather than just the total mean. In other words, summarize allows you to actually find the mean by continent. So if you run that, then you can see a list. Everyone see this? Everyone get this? I'll try to zoom in a little more even.
No, I forgot my glasses.
This is the line.
Okay, that's what I did.
And if you're not getting this, it might be that the column name GDP per cap has a capital P.
For some reason.
Yeah, for some weird reason.
So if it didn't already have the continents sorted out, because it already has them in the data frame, it would be very time consuming to put countries into continents. So you'd have to put countries into continents and then be able to run it after creating a new.
Yeah. That's why you never want to do that manually. There are things out there to help you with that. Yeah. Okay. Is everyone good? Any questions on that? Do you want to do some graphing? Let's do some graphing. See some sweet visuals. Okay, so what we're going to use is a package called ggplot2, which is included in the Tidyverse thing. And it's just a really nice graphing package that allows you to see some cool stuff. So just start out, the syntax is ggplot, and then in parentheses, data equals gmdf, like this. And then comma, mapping equals AES for aesthetic. And then you assign your axes. So x equals, let's do year, y equals life expectancy, and then close parentheses, and plus, on a different line, GM points, like that. And if you run that, you get a cool graph.
Can you go through
Yeah. So this first bit, this first line, ggplot is telling we're going to use ggplot, and then data equals gmdf is declaring which data set you're going to use. If you have a ton of data frames over here in the environment, you have to specify which one you want to use. Mapping equals AES, so AES means aesthetic. So it's essentially what that bit does is start to assign the aesthetics of the graph. X equals year is telling ggplot that you want the x-axis to use the year column in the data frame, and then y equals life expectancy is telling it that you want the y-axis to be the life expectancy column. Does that make sense? And then this g on points bit is telling ggplot that you want a point group, like a scatter plot. Also, make sure this is a plus and not a pipe. It's weird. ggplot uses pluses instead of pipes. Don't ask me why.
So if we change the last line, we're changing the type of graph.
Yep. So if you want to do, you can do G on line. And it'll be a weird line. Doesn't make sense. Point is the best one for this. Does everyone see this graph? Anyone not? Anyone need help? I'll give it another minute. So again, these the spaces that I have around the equal sign don't actually do anything. They're just convention. It makes it more readable. It's up to your preference. Like, this works just as well. It's just less readable in my opinion. Okay.
So this is showing right now for all countries, correct?
Yeah.
That's why it's so weird looking.
Yeah. So that's super. It's not very helpful in this case because you can't see anything. So if you want to do, if you want to see a bit more nuance into this, you can do things like use color. So in this aesthetic bit, in the right in here, you can do after the Y equals life expectancy, you can do comma, color equals continent. So that's telling ggplot that you want it to assign color to the graph based on the continent that the points fall into. I spelled continent wrong. But if you were to spell it right, you would see that.
Sorry.
So it's really fun to see a graph like this because you can start to see some patterns emerge, like, as you would expect. The countries in Africa generally have lower life expectancy than the countries in Europe and Asia. You can see some interesting outliers down here, which are probably due to civil war. I think this one actually might be the Rwandan genocide down here. ggplot is awesome because there's a ton of stuff you can do with it. Like if you want to build a histogram of life expectancy, you can do that by doing actually, you can just copy. Never mind. Don't copy. So in this case, we're doing a histogram, which is a bar graph essentially. So you want to do fill instead of color. So fill equals continent, and plus histogram or geom underscore histogram. So this is cool because you can see continent distribution of life expectancies pretty easily. I highly recommend after this, if you're interested in this stuff, if you're interested in graphing, going and reading about ggplot more because there are like a ton of different themes that you can do too. Like if you want to make it black and white, I don't know why you would in this case. It changes certain things. Minimal is a fun theme. It just gives you less clutter. It's nice.
What was the theme minimal?
Theme minimal. It just changes the look of the graph so it has fewer grid lines. It has like a flatter look. This is all aesthetics, by the way. This is all. I don't know. You can do theme light if you want to. But yeah, you can just play around with that stuff if you want. But the important aspects of this are these two lines. Does everyone see that histogram? Cool. Let's see what else. All right. Let's say we want to graph life expectancy versus GDP, or GDP versus life expectancy. Like, we want to see if, as a country gets richer, do its people live longer? We can do GMDF mapping, and then in this case, we want X to be the GDP per cap column, and Y to be life expectancy. All right, everyone see this? Cool. So, if you've ever taken a statistics class or done any statistics at all, you'll know that GDP is usually a pretty terrible variable to use as like on its own. We'll probably want to throw it into a log, so you can just wrap GDP per cap in log like that. This is log open parentheses GDP per cap close parentheses, and that'll give you a graph that will look a lot better from a actual like understanding what's going on standpoint. If you want to make it colorful, you can throw in another color equals continent.
Could you filter by continent as well? Could you do that within ggplot? So like just to have Asia or something? Off the top of your head.
I don't, so there might be, but I wouldn't recommend it. I'd recommend doing that outside of ggplot.
Okay. Yeah, I'm like making another variable and then
Yeah.
going back in.
Yeah. So the next thing you probably want to do is see if there's actually any relationship. Good thing ggplot allows you to do that. You can do, so G on smooth is the basic one. It'll fit a smooth line onto each of the series. I think this will, yeah, so this will do per continent, which is a pretty funny looking graph. you actually want to see this, like the statistical regression fit, you can do stat underscore smooth instead of geom smooth. Stat underscore smooth method equals LM for linear model. Color equals red in quotes. So this is a function within ggplot that allows you to pass in a method, in this case LM, linear regression, linear modeling, and then assign the line of best fit to a color, which is red. Now you can see the line of best fit for this. And you can see that there's pretty clearly a relationship between GDP and life expectancy, which is really cool.
Sorry, what was the LM again?
LM is linear model, linear regression model. Do you guys want to go over anything specific? No, just hanging out.
No, just go over the basics.
Yeah. Do you have anything in mind that you're going to help with?
No, I think both of us probably anticipate being in tutoring for
Okay.
network analysis.
Oh, good.
There you go.
Yeah.
You don't? You have your grass? Cool grass. Sweet. Awesome. Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Oh, no, that's most of me. If I had my glasses, I'd be great.
This class was also not set up great for people on the edges. How you guys doing? You all good?
Good.
How are you? Good.
Fantastic. First geek out of the year. Feeling good. I'm teaching 4 more.
So can we
Are
just
they
save
all going to
it?
be art?
2 more are going to be art, and then one's going to be SQL, and one's going to be Tableau.
If you want to save it, like we already have the script.
Yeah.
It's already saved.
So you can, you'll want to save it, like just save it again as you go to Word document. Just however you save things on Windows, just Control S. Control S. I know how to use Windows, so it'll just save it.
Okay.
Then you can open it again. Okay.
Sorry. Does this just save automatically as we work with it?
No, you're gonna have to Command S, or file save. Every so often. Okay, I'm gonna go over a couple more data transformation things that are less fun than ggplot but are important. But I wanted to break this up with the ggplot stuff because that's always a good time. I'll do more next week on that as well. Pitch to come next week. Okay, so if you want to do things like, say you want to add a column to the data frame itself, that's, I don't even know, what's the thing we can do?
With the data we have.
Yeah, I'm just gonna, we'll just put in a column that just says the same thing. So if you want to add a column, what you can do is gmdf pipes mutate.
We could multiply GDP per capita times population to get GDP.
There you go.
There we go.
Good, look at you. Okay,
Math.
So if we want to make a column that's GDP and not GDP per capita, what we can do is mutate GDP, which will become the new column name, equals GDP per cap times is the little asterisk. Is it population? I think it's population.
It's just POP.
Oh, it's just POP. So that's it. So if you run that, then you can see, I think population's in like, oh, that's right. Should be right. Yeah, so now you can see the GDP down here. If we want to actually keep that column and not just see it in the console, GMDF, back arrow, GMDF pipes mutate. So now that column is saved, we have that to mess around with. We should graph GDP per cap versus GDP. That'd be fun. Let's do that. Let's graph that column that we just made. Oops. AS X equals, what would we want on that? GDP. Yeah. X equals GDP, Y equals GDP per cap.
I think GDP is going to be lowercase, right?
Yeah. Good call. Color equals continent plus GM points. Bless you.
Thank you.
I'm so happy.
Let's see.
It's a weird graph. Wow.
And you can spend an hour interpreting what this is.
I know. I mean, so early things.
Yeah.
You totally could. This is fun because you can actually see some of the things that you would expect in the graph. Like the green is Asia. So you can see some very, very, it's rich per person, but not in an absolute sense. It's probably like Singapore, right? And then Europe has a bunch clustered in there as well. The Scandinavian countries up here probably. Luxembourg.
Yeah, like you would expect all of it to be
Yeah.
a positive
Yeah.
transit. It's not.
Yeah. Yeah, if we actually wanted to see the like the relationship between GDP and GDP per capita, we could do that as well by making a new column. GDP ratio, I guess we'll call it, equals we want y over x. So GDP per cap divided by GDP. Does that just give you?
Come back with the population.
That just gives you the population, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What am I trying to find? I'm trying to find the. I might not be trying to find anything.
You're going to repeat what you were trying to find.
Like I'm trying to find the. No, it'd just be the GDP per cap, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like we could make our own column and see if it's the same as what they're reporting.
Yeah. I was trying to just locate these, like the highest.
Oh.
Maybe just doing graphing GDP against population and seeing if there's like,
Yeah,
is that what you're trying, like?
yeah, that's
is there a
actually better.
correlation between
I mean,
being a large economy and also being like large in population?
Yeah. Which is essentially just graphing GDP per capita, but
Yeah.
But that
whatever.
doesn't
We'll
tell you
forget
how
about
many
that.
people there are.
That's true. Actually, probably one is GDP per capita versus population. Then you could, you could see the relationship between, actually locate the ones that have a really high GDP per capita and a small population. Let's see, what else do I want? Anyone have any questions about what we've covered so far today? This is a good crash course intro into R scripting. There's a lot more that you can do with it. There's like thousands upon thousands of user-created packages where all the fun really happens. Like there's one called GG Animate, which essentially animates GG plot graphs, so you can get this really smooth transition over the years, get really cool time series visualizations that you can then export as GIFs and then put on Twitter, which is what Brendan Knapp does all the time, very well.
I mean, we could talk about importing data.
Oh yeah, we should do that. Okay, that's a good wrap up actually. So now that we have GMDF as a thing that has a column that we created, if we want to get that out of R as a as a spreadsheet, what you can do is write.csv and then GMDF, the data frame that you want to export, and then the file name that you want, which is also you can also include the path that you want to save it at, but in this case we'll just save it to the project. So we'll call it gmdf.csv. And so you need that second part needs to be in quotes because it's a name of something. And then if you run that, you'll see in this Files tab over here that you now have a nice shiny new spreadsheet that you can then put into Excel if you want to. Do everything in R, but you could put it into Excel. If we have a different spreadsheet that we want to bring back into R, then what you can do is import it, just copy this, read_CSV. To get to that, you go over here, you click on this, import dataset, and all you need is this bit, read_CSV. Copy that, and then make it assign that to a new variable. So new df. Okay. You could also just type this if you want. And so if you run that, then you'll see that you have a new data frame over here called new df. Everyone good? Everyone able to do that? Awesome. That's basically all the coding stuff I had to show off today. I'm doing 2 more of these next week and the week after. Next week will be more in depth from what we built on here, and then the week after that I'm planning on doing intending on right now on doing something regarding text mining. So if you're interested in like harvesting Twitter data and looking at word frequencies and all that stuff, that's that might be a good one to come to. I'll still keep it simple though and doable, so we can go over it in an hour. But that's the stuff that I personally am super interested in, Twitter mining and text mining. So I think that'll be really fun. I wanted to quickly go over a couple other resources if you are interested in this still. So the thing that I used to learn literally everything I know at the beginning at least was this textbook called R for Data Science. It's free, it's open source, it's online, and it is amazing. Like, it has everything you need to know and more. It goes through all the basics, all the visualization basics, all of the function, like actually programming in R, doing functions, building programs, that sort of thing. It goes through all of that, and it's readable. The guy who wrote it is awesome, and he actually was the guy who wrote this was one of the main engineers on the Tidyverse package, and ggplot, now that I think of it. But it's great. So another great resource, I also learned a lot from Brendan Knapp, who graduated in the spring. If you Google search Brendan Knapp, spelled Knapp, and anything related to R, it'll come up with just a bunch of stuff. Like he built a package for a collection of data from the video game series Halo, and he built a way to get access to a bunch of data regarding that. I think it's just scraping the website, but he's an awesome resource as well, and he's working on getting hired at MPS, I think. Yeah. What's that? Yeah. So he's awesome. There's tons of stuff on there too. But yeah, R is awesome because it's an open source language, so there's just tons and tons and tons of resources out there. If any of you have a Twitter account, the community #RStats is awesome and great, and I follow that all the time. But it's really fun to get to just dive in, and it can be intimidating at first, but it's just anything you can learn will help you in the long run. So just dive in there and try things out. This textbook though is awesome. It's the best thing for learning R. R for data science. It's also free, so.
Free textbook.
Yeah. All right, thanks guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.